Welcome to Tuna Whistles. I'm your host, Joe Chap, and today we are going to be talking about the Michigan State season preview because they start Friday at Spartan Stadium against Central Michigan Chippewas, and this has to get out before, Friday because I have to let my opinion go. I know people were waiting for this Michigan State season preview. I know people that have never seen me before, which you could subscribe to the channel below because we're gonna have a lot of great Michigan State content. Um, I just wanted to get my content out there because look, we all know Michigan State is in a particular situation with the way that they're playing. We all know that there's not the highest of expectations with Michigan State. What we do know is that Mel Tucker has a lot to fix. And there's some players that they've added in the portal that have helped, that will definitely help. You have some players that departed from Michigan State that it's going to be a little bit of a loss, especially with some of the players that we're going to name. But look, it's all indicative on what Mel Tucker does, what Scotty Hazelton does, what Jay Johnson does, what Ross Els does. Because when we look at all the stats, you're gonna be first of all, it was kind of sickening to see some of the stats that were out there. Okay, we're gonna get to it right now because I want to show you this. So the key stats in 2022. The Michigan State offense points per game 24.4. That was 81st in the nation. Defense a little better than we thought. 27.46 is third nation. That's still not any. That's still not good anywhere. Red zone scoring percentage for the offense 71.7%. That's 122nd in the nation. You can't win like that. You literally, if you're 122nd in the nation again or worse, you might as well just say that Mel Tucker will be on the hot seat. Passing yards per game, 240 on the dot, 54th in the nation. Another area where they had really big concerns is the last two stats that we're going to name on the offensive side of the ball. 113.2 yards per game on the rushing end. It's 104th in the FBS. Time of possession percentage, 43.7%. That's 127th in the nation. You're not going to win games like that. You go to the defensive side of the ball. Again, the defense might have been a little bit better, and that's not saying much. Okay, opposite opponent passing yards per game, 237.9, 82nd in the country. Opponent rushing yards per game, 178.6. That was 96th in the country. Again, you can't get off the field. Opponent time of possession percentage, 56.29%. That was 127th in the nation. But I want you to look at the special teams because if this isn't better, you might as well just kiss a lot of games goodbye because you play in the Big Ten. You play in the Big Ten where games come down to literally 3 to 4 to 6 points. Okay. You are 50% on field goal conversion rate. 50%. That was 131st in the nation. 131st in the nation. Absolutely incredible what you see with those stats because if you look at those stats and you think about how bad Michigan State's field goal kicking was, how bad the special teams was, you wonder who in the hell let Ross Ellis come back. But you're going to give him another shot, and this is on Mel Tucker. This is on Mel Tucker. He cannot get this one wrong because when you look at Michigan State and you look at the way that they lost some of those games, having a good field goal kicker would have probably got you bowl eligible. But you're not. You weren't bowl eligible because you couldn't make kicks. You were 131st in the nation, and that doesn't matter. Let's look at Mel Tucker. So Mel Tucker, it's time to win, dude. It's really time to win. In 2020, he was 2-5. In 2021, he was 11-2. In 2022, he was 5-7. Like I said, if you have a good field goal kicker, you probably aren't 5-7. You are probably 6-6 at the least, at the very least. 2021 was a magical year for Michigan State. Let's just put it this way. You had Kenneth Walker, a generational player. He was a generational player. Um, he was just amazing at what he did. He was probably one of those guys that you won't see much of ever again because it's generationally. You don't see many of those guys throughout program history, and it just happened to be in a year where your defense wasn't that great, and your offense it really was better than people would have thought because of Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker, the one thing that he did at Michigan State was he made it easier for Peyton Thorne, who was a first-time starting quarterback. When Peyton Thorne had the threat of a run game, he was he was tactical. When he didn't have the threat of a run game, he kind of panicked in the pocket a little bit. And look, there's no denying what Kenneth Walker meant to this university. There's no denying what it meant to Mel Tucker because he got a big contract raise because of Kenneth Walker and that year. But the reality of the situation is, it wasn't just Kenneth Walker. I mean, Mel Tucker decided to take a chance on a kid from Wake Forest, and it ended up being Kenneth Walker. So he gets credit for that too. But you need talent. That's basically what it comes down to. So in the portal, you got people that left, you got people that came. I liked some of the people that came. You know, you got Adeli from Texas A&M. You got Admola Felai. He's a defensive end, I believe. Samar Melvin, the cornerback that's coming out of Wisconsin. Obviously, look at the departures. You got Peyton Thorne, you got Keon Coleman, you got Jeremy Bernard, you got Deshaun Mallory. I look at the first three, and I go, wow, those are some guys that could have helped this team this year, but they're not going to be there. I look at Nathan Carter and the key additions. I think Nathan Carter is going to be a legitimate, uh, just a great running back. I think he didn't get the run he could have at UConn. I think UConn was kind of they underutilized him. I think he was better. He had like a 6.2 yards per carry at UConn. So when you look at that, obviously when you look at Peyton Thorne leaving, it obviously opens up a quarterback scenario where we're not going to get closure on it until probably Washington. It's between Caden Hauser and Noah Kim. We'll see what happens with that. Losing Keon Coleman sucks because he's an NFL wide receiver. That'd be very, very helpful to have this year. Jeremy Bernard, again, he had a lot of talent. And, you know, one of the things that I've heard from people is that Mel Tucker wouldn't promise him to start. And if anybody has a problem with Mel Tucker telling a wide receiver that he is not going to start, first of all, if he backs down from that to keep the kid, what does it tell the rest of the locker room? Like, what does it tell the rest of the locker room when you keep a kid who gave the coach an ultimatum, and ultimately the coach said, "Yeah, we'll start you. You're gonna start. Don't worry. Don't leave." Well, then that tells everyone that they can do the same stuff when it comes to them starting. So that's why I think it was important for Mel Tucker to say, "No, no, we're not doing that. You're either gonna earn it, stay to play, compete to stay." You know, and this was the same thing with Michigan State. Like, you can't be making those promises because those promises can end up really backfiring on you. So let's look at some of the what needs to be better for Michigan State. So the run game has to be better for the offense. The offense has to be able to run the ball. Quarterback play has to be better. Obviously, if you get the running game to be better, quarterback play it has to go hand in hand. You know, quarterback play is indicative on how the run game is because if you're just trotting your quarterback out there in running situations and he's going back to pass, I mean, if you don't have a threat of a play action or a threat of a run game, especially in the Big Ten, those players are gonna tee off on you. So that's what it comes down to. They got to get the clock moving. You know, you got to get first downs. You got to push the pace because being 127th in time of possession, you're not going to win many ball games, especially in the Big Ten, when um, you can't win time of possession. You have to win time of possession. One of the things that Bill Belichick has always said for the New England Patriots when they were winning Super Bowls, he said, you know, time of possession is huge because you keep the other team's offense off the field. Even if you're just going to score a field goal, which was a problem for Michigan State also, but even if you're going to score a field goal, having that clock move at a considerable pace helps the offense, helps your defense get fresh, and it gives them a little bit of a breather. For the offense, even if you get a field goal in that you just took 7-8 minutes off the clock. So that's the most important thing for the offense on there that needs to be better. Pass defense needs to be better. We all know about that. It hasn't been good. Mel Tucker made his name on pass defense. It has to be better. I don't care where it comes from. It just has to be better. I think Samar Melvin from Wisconsin, transfer portal guy that they added to Michigan State. I think he could be really good. Terry Roberts from Iowa. I think he could be really good. But ultimately, this comes down to Mel Tucker because this is what you were hired for. You were a great secondary coach. You're a great defensive backs coach. Scotty Hazelton got a little bump with you know Mel Tucker keeping him on board. So the pass defense needs to be much much better. Pass rush needs to get home. I think this is one of the most I think this is one of the most clear and obvious one. Obviously, with these work hand in hand again. Like with when we say the run game needs to be better and the quarterback play has to be better, if they're both good, it's because they're working in tandem. If the pass defense is going to be better, the pass rush needs to get home. Period. End of story. And with the guys that they've added, you got By Job and as a freshman, you got a lot of pass rushers. Chris Bogle. You got Avery Dunn, who's getting a little bit of love from NFL scouts. We'll get to that next. But the pass rusher should be better. They weren't great last year, and with Jacoby Windman being your best pass rusher, I mean, come on, guys, like that's got to be a lot better. And lastly, for needs to get better, they need to get off the field. Like 127th in time possession is just not going to happen. Both the offense and defense, they couldn't stay on the field and they couldn't get off the field on third downs. That's something that needs to be changing. And Mel Tucker, this is a big emphasis on him. He needs to get these players off the field on defense and get the clock moving on the offense, because when you play Big Ten football, one of the things that you are expected to do as a head coach is you are expected to make the right adjustments. So when I'm talking about adjustments, I'm talking about you make the right adjustments when on the fly. You're gonna have to make them on the fly, because sometimes there's gonna be, there's gonna be a back, there's gonna be, they're gonna be blitzing through the A gap, and you're gonna have to make it a run outside. You're gonna have to do something. With a new quarterback, it's gonna be chintzy because you're gonna have a guy who's not gonna have a really good grip on the offense. If Noah Kim starts, I mean, it's his first time starting for a college program, so I mean, even he will have stuff to learn. I don't think you're gonna have to. I think you're still gonna have to kind of go through like the bumps down the road. But I think if Caden Hauser starts or Noah Kim starts, I still think there will be some um, bumps in there. It won't be easy, but your running game has to get you through. And Jalen Berger, Jared Magnum, and Nathan Carter, they can help you move the ball on the defensive side of the ball. When you got Adelie from Texas A&M, you have Avery Dunn. You have players on that defense that can help you stop teams on third down, get off the field, and then your offense just incrementally goes down the field and wastes some time. Michigan, I know Michigan State does not like Michigan, but one of the things that Michigan does do well is they they take time of possession away from the other team. That's one of the things that they do really really well. And I think that Mel Tucker, as a defensive coach, knows that you have to take time of possession on the offense if you want to be a good defense. Now, NFL eyes on MSU, because I talked to some scouts, and this is some of the players that they are watching at Michigan State. So you got Spencer Brown, the offensive tackle. He has to have a good year. So does JD Duplain. They both have to have good years. What the one scout said is he loves Spencer Brown, his athleticism. He thinks he's going to be really good. The one offensive lineman that is really, really getting some love is Nick Seamack. People love Nick Seamack, and they think he could be a center in the NFL, starting center, and maybe a third round pick if this year goes as planned. They got Tumis Adele. This is a kid who can rush the passer. This is a kid that's just a tank. You got Avery Dunn. He's getting NFL consideration. It's all dependent on what these guys do this year. Period. End of story. Jacoby Windman, we all know that he could probably win last year. Aaron Brule, Darius Snow, who we forgot about. I think a lot of people forgot about that he was injured last year. That was a big loss for the defense. And Trey Mosley. Now, one of the things I want to talk about and consider in consideration for Darius Snow, okay? I talked to some of these scouts, and with players like Brian Branch, right? That could play in the box, they could play in the slot, they can play in the safety box. There's kind of an emphasis on a player that can do all three. And one of the things that this scout said is that if Darius Snow is anything like Brian Branch, his draft stock will skyrocket going into next April in Detroit. So Darius Snow has I know he has a long road to recovery. I know he's just getting back, and he's trying to get the feel of things. But if Darius Snow can put together a really good year, this Michigan State defense can put together a really good year. This could be really helpful for Darius Snow. So I look at Darius Snow as the guy that you look at and you say, if everything goes well, that kid will be a first round pick or a second round pick, because we've seen what happened with Bryant Branch. With the Detroit Lions, he went in the second round, and when he went in the second round, people were kind of baffled. But the the reason he went in the second round was because of his measurables, and a lot of people they kind of they take that too seriously with the measurables and everything. So let's look at the schedule. So Michigan State betting over under 5.5 wins. If you went over 5.5 wins, it's plus 146. If you went under, it's 5.5 wins. It's minus 180. If you want to bet on the Michigan State Spartans to win the Big Ten championship uh, outright, plus 15,000. And if you want to bet on Michigan State winning the Big Ten East championship, you put nine. It's 9,500. So you look at that. I mean, obviously, if you're betting a Big Ten champion out of the East, you're probably going to put the Big Ten East team in there, because I mean, the West doesn't really, they don't really offer this conference much, to be honest. If we're being totally honest, like if you bet on Michigan State to be the Big Ten East champion, you might as well bet them to be the Big Ten champion outright. Now, I really like the over 5.5 wins, because when you look at over 5.5 wins plus 146, there's some good value to that. I do think they're going to get over 6 wins. You look at Central Michigan, I think that's a win. You look at Richmond, I think that's a win. You look at Maryland, I think that's a win. I think Iowa could be a win. That right there, you got 3 wins. Then you got Rutgers, that's a win. You got Minnesota, that's a win. You got Nebraska, that's a win. You got Indiana, that's a win. I think that's a win. You got toss-up games with, Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State. Will you beat any of them? Probably not, because those are three absolutely good teams. But Washington, that game against Washington is a game to watch, because it's at Spartan Stadium. You know, you never know how, especially with the loss of Cameron Davis, how Washington will respond. And you never know what's going to happen with your quarterback. If you get a quarterback that could just go out there and ball, I mean, against Washington, I think that could be really good. I think if your defense is starting to perk up, I think they can present some problems to Washington. But obviously, a lot of people are high on Washington, and there's good reason for why they are high on Washington. So, look, you look at that schedule. I think over 5.5 wins is a definite. I'll definitely put money on that. Absolutely, because I think that this Michigan State team is a lot better than people give them credit for. I think that this Michigan State team is ready to make some moves. I think Mel Tucker, I think he's going to play pretty well. I'm worried about quarterback for Michigan State, because obviously with Caden Hauser or Noah Kim, I mean, like I said earlier, there's going to be bumps along the road. So, and the wide receivers, there's got to be someone that has to step up, because you got that kid from Nebraska, he could step up potentially. You got Trey Mosley, he could definitely step up. You got some tight ends that can step up out, obviously, but the run game has to be better. And I think if the run game is better, it'll help out the quarterbacks, and I think that would be really, really good. You look at surprise players. So, in my opinion, these are going to be surprise players for Michigan State, because I like Nathan Carter coming out of UConn. I think that you look at the 65 carries, 405 yards, one touchdown, 6.2 average. Keep in mind, I think he only played like 5 games last year. So when you look at that, I wonder what he could do with Michigan State's offensive line. I think Michigan State's offensive line is criminally underrated. If you saw the NFL eyes on MSU, and you look at the 3 top ones, it's offensive tackle, offensive guard, and center. And if you could put together an offensive line that does pretty well, you will be all right. So defense, I look at Samar Melvin. I think he's going to be a guy that you can kind of work with. I think that Mel Tucker can work with this guy. I like the way that he plays. In his limited time with Wisconsin, he was a pretty damn good player. Pass breakup 3, 16 tackles. This is throughout his career. He hasn't got much playing time, 323 snaps, I think, in his career. but I think he's a good player, and I think he can help Michigan State down the line. You look at Samar Melvin. I think this is a guy that could help out this team a lot. I think Nathan Carter can help out this team a lot. Magnum, who they got from Colorado, I think he can help that running game out a lot. We're looking at Jalen Berger kind of go back to his Wisconsin ways. Obviously, without a Wisconsin offensive line, he didn't do that. But ultimately, it's gonna depend on how does he do moving forward. Now, when you look at the final verdict, yep, final verdict. I predict 8-4. I think the best offensive player is going to be Nathan Carter. I think the best defensive player is going to be Tumis Adaye. And I think best freshman is going to be Bai Job. I think Bai Job is going to get some playing time by the end of the year. I think he's going to really, really show out in the last half of the year. And I think that's going to be great for the Michigan State Spartans because they need a pass rush. They need to get off the field on third down. If that can happen, you're going to be in a better spot ultimately overall. So I like where Michigan State is right now. I do. I think that they are going to have a way better season than people think. I think that over 5.5 is something that you smash, and just smash the hell out of it because 5.5 wins, I think they're getting that easily. I think a lot of people are underestimating Michigan State. Obviously, nationally, you're hearing a lot of Michigan State. They're not that good. Mel Tucker is overrated. He's on a hot seat. When Mel Tucker took over this team, they were looking to get better. They were looking to get better. And when you come into a situation when you're in COVID, you can't recruit. Looking at you, Jim Harbaugh. Sometimes you can't get yourself to go do better things. So I look at Michigan State. I think they're going to be a lot better in 2023. It's going to be dependent on how they move the ball. Can they get off the field and can they stay on the field on offense? That's going to be the major thing. You looked at. Let's go back on it. No, time of possession. Look at 127th in the country on both offense and defense. Special teams, field goal percentage, that has to go way up because you're not going to win games in the Big Ten if you're kicking at a 50% clip. You might as well just kiss it goodbye, and that's going to be what it is. So, look, I think Michigan State's going to be better. I think they'll be way better, but how much better will they be in 2023? That is yet to be determined. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. More Michigan State content's coming. This is Between the Whistles Detroit. I'm your host, Joe Chap, and I'll see you in the next video.